What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Good morning. It is time. It is time to turn the page. It is time to continue to discuss free agency. And this time we're going to be taking a look outside the current team. We are going to be taking a look outside what we had on our roster in 2022. There's a whole wide world of options to make your team better outside what you had the previous year. So we've spent a lot of time talking about the guys who are going to be free agents from our team. Let's talk about some guys who are going to be free agents from other teams. And we're going to start at the quarterback position. And this is a position where I'm not saying this is my favorite. I'm not saying I'm pumped up about going out and getting a free agent quarterback from another team. In fact, I'm not. But that doesn't change the fact that this is something that needs to be discussed. That doesn't change the fact that it is possible that we end up with a quarterback in outside free agency. We currently don't have a quarterback on the roster, in fact. We've talked about Geno, we've talked about Drew Lock. The reason why we've talked about those guys, they're both free agents. So as of right now, we don't really have a quarterback. If the NFL season started tomorrow, our quarterback would probably be Michael Dixon or DJ Dallas. So we can't rule anything out. We can't not look at our options. So let's take a look at the guys that you could get from other teams in the NFL, starting at quarterback. And we're going to start with the guys who you would be bringing in to start. These are going to be the guys who you bring in, and if you did bring them in, they would either be handed the starting job or be handed pole position in a quarterback battle during the offseason. So, first of all, Brady is on this list. I have the Spotrac free agent list pulled up, but Brady is retired, so we're not going to be talking about Tom Brady. I could see a scenario where Tom Brady comes back to play for the 49ers, but that's it. I don't think he would come back for any other team, and honestly, I don't think he would come back for the 49ers either. He didn't have a very good year. Things didn't go that well, and at this point, I don't know why he would even be that desirable, but even if he is, I don't think he would be on the table for Seattle. It's San Fran or nothing. So, Brady's off the table. Let's find some other guys who are veterans from other teams who are going to be available this offseason who you would bring in to start. And these first three guys we're going to talk about, to me, are kind of the big ones that I'm most noticeably interested in. First, we're going to start with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, he was the starting quarterback in New York for these last 4 years. He's started over 50 games in his career. He's coming off probably his best year as a pro, had a winning record, made the playoffs, won a playoff game, fixed his turnover issues by and large, particularly his fumbling issues got a lot better, and now he's in line for his second contract. It seems likely he will stay in New York. That's kind of the read that I'm getting here. But for the moment, he is a free agent. And for the moment, we can at least talk about this. So what are you getting with Daniel Jones? You're getting a player who is a dual threat. He's able to use his legs. He's very dangerous with his legs as well as with his arm. In fact, I would say probably even a little more dangerous with his legs than with his arm. He's somebody who has really turned his career around in terms of turnovers. He had 5 interceptions last year, and then he had the one in the playoffs. So you're talking about 18 games and I believe like 7 total turnovers, if you count the fumble. So pretty clean, nicely improved. However, I'm often a little unimpressed with the accuracy. He doesn't have an amazing arm. He doesn't have like some big cannon for an arm. And a lot of his improvements as a player this most recent year can definitely be linked to a DeBole, who came in from Buffalo and left Josh Allen. When DeBole got to work with Daniel Jones for a year, Daniel Jones became a guy who was able to have much more success avoiding turnovers. Like, you can actually see over Daniel Jones's career, he's been, like, just look at the interceptions. We all know about Daniel Jones and his fumble problems, but just look at the interceptions here. You've got 12 in 12 starts as a rookie. You've got 10 in 14 starts second year, Third year, he had 7 in 11 games. And then this most recent year, he played the whole season except for, I think, the last game because they benched their starters. And he only had 5 interceptions. And remember, he's had fumbling issues that he's been slowly improving on as his career has gone on. So DeBoll probably had a lot to do with that because if you look at Josh Allen, when DeBoll left Buffalo, Josh Allen suddenly started turning the ball over a lot more. Now, PFF does like him, gave him a grade of a 76, a really good rushing quarterback, and they gave him a pretty decent passing grade as well. But in terms of volume, you're still looking at a very limited quarterback. This is a guy who had 3,200 passing yards in 16 games, so he's averaging about 200 passing yards a game, less than 1 touchdown a game through the air. He's obviously adding a lot with his legs, but we're not crazy about the volume here, so it's not amazing. I do think it's fair to point out, though, that Daniel Jones doesn't have the greatest weapons to work with here. In fact, his receivers have largely been no-names. They brought in some guys who have been complete disasters, and he's had to work with random scraps. So there's something here. He's got strong draft pedigree. He was a top 6 pick just a handful of years ago. Spotrac says he's going to get 3 years, 78 million, 79 million, so 26 million a year. I've heard rumors that the Giants are going to offer him 30 million a year, and for him to hit the free agent market, he would probably have to turn that down. So if anything, I'd say you're probably looking at more than 30 million. You're probably looking at a lot more than this. Would I do that? No, I'm not. I'm not feeling that. If I can either keep Geno for 32 million a year or get Daniel Jones for 32, just give me Geno Smith. That's fine. So I'm not really big on the Daniel Jones thing. Next up, let's talk about one of the other guys coming off his rookie deal, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson just finished his 5th year in Baltimore and is primed to hit the free agent market. And he's a guy who had his best season back in 2019. His second year, won MVP, was All-Pro, and since then it's been a steady decline. 2020 he was still really good, still a really good quarterback, made the playoffs, won a playoff game. Had good numbers, passing and running. And then these last 2 years, you get to the end of the season, he's on the sideline. He gets off to good starts. He's still putting up decent performances. His numbers this most recent year were okay, solid, effective. He was still a good runner. But you get to December, and he's AWOL. He cannot stay healthy, and the Ravens have either not made the playoffs or limped into the playoffs because of it. So that, to me, is big problem number 1. Now, PFF, of course, they're big fans of Lamar Jackson because of what he's adding as a runner, as well as having pretty decent passing numbers as well. So, I mean, PFF has been mostly high on Lamar. You can go back to pretty much any year, even prior to the MVP year. This is the MVP year where it was like, wow. But the problem is not so much the play on the field. The problem is the lack of play not on the field in the most important moments. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is the money he's going to probably be seeking. So Spotrac says 6 years, 245 million. That's about 41 million a year. PFF projected more. PFF says 50 million a year. And let's remember, Lamar was supposedly offered 50 million a year last year. He was offered the Wilson contract, 5 years, 250, and turned it down. Now, he didn't have a great year and he got hurt again, so maybe he won't be able to command that much money, but it seems like he feels like he'll be able to, and it's possible. Third of all, you're going to have to trade for him. Yeah, let's throw that in there while we're talking about this. Probably Baltimore's going to franchise tag him, and you're going to have to give up at least 1 first-round pick to get Lamar. So put that all together. Am I getting Lamar? Absolutely not. No, especially when I don't think he fits this offense at all. Like, I don't want Daniel Jones, but at least Daniel Jones might fit our offense. Lamar, I don't really think he would fit this offense. So that's a no from me for many reasons. Mostly the price tag. But when you combine the price tag with the trade value, no. One other guy I want to talk about here. This guy's a little bit of a sleeper here, but he's somebody who would definitely be on my radar if you let Geno go, but you still want to go for it in 2023, try to compete for a Super Bowl, and you're trying to find a passable option at quarterback. It's Taylor Heinicke. So Taylor Heinicke, he's been with the Washington Commanders, previously Washington football team, for a couple years now, and kind of an interesting example of like a mid-level quarterback here. He was okay in 2021, had a bit of a turnover problem, averaged like one interception a game, but he made plays, put up pretty decent numbers overall, and played himself into a position where he was going to have the opportunity to be a starting quarterback going forward. 2022, he didn't play as much because Carson Wentz was on the roster. I do think he improved a little bit overall, but you're still looking at a guy who didn't ascend to being one of the better starting quarterbacks in the league. QB rating just under 90. So he improved, I think, but not by a ton, and he did struggle at the end of the season. PFF was not kind to his 2022 season. They gave him a grade below 50. To compare, in 2021, they actually gave him a decent grade. Spotrac is saying 20 mil a year, basically. 19.8 million, 3 years. I think it's going to be less. I think it's going to be less because Taylor Heinicke did not finish the season well and actually got benched in one of the last games of the year for Carson Wentz. So I'm not really up for it. I'm not hyped on it. But if you want to go for it in 2023 and you let Geno Smith go because it's too much money and you can get Taylor Heinicke for like 2 years, 30 million with an easy out after 1 year, that's actually kind of nice. So if you kind of have to break glass in case of emergency, I think Taylor Heinicke would be my break glass in case of emergency guy. So, okay, let's come loop back on that later if Geno walks, because this is going to be like your nice mid-level option QB, I think. Now, we've got two more guys I want to talk about that are not listed here because at the moment they're not available, but either we know they will be or they could be. And I've got to talk about them for at least a few minutes just to address what I know people are going to ask about. First, you have Derek Carr. Everybody knows that Derek Carr is either going to be traded or released in the coming days, weeks, months, whatever. He's not going to be a Raider in 2023. And when he gets released, he's got enough credentials under his belt to credibly say he should be a starter in this league. So Derek Carr gets released. Let's try to kind of understand what he might be looking for here. So 2022, Derek Carr had a decent year, but it was a step down from what he did in 2021. 2021, he made the playoffs. He had a 68.5% completion percentage. It was one of the better years of his career, really. 4,800 yards, some impressive stuff. 2022, he wasn't bad, but his completion percentage took a big step back. He got benched for a couple games. His overall efficiency just dropped. So I don't think there's going to be huge money out there for him. But looking at it, trying to estimate what he's going to get, here's the thing. After 2021, Carr got extended to a $40 million a year contract. Now, Raiders probably wish they hadn't done that, although it should be said it was a very light $40 million a year contract because it was so easy to get out of. The fact that the Raiders are going to get out of it now without owing him much money tells you that. So, obviously, whatever contract he gets if he's released would be less than that. But I don't think it's going to be a ton less. I think you're looking at something like $30 million a year. Carr is a guy who has accomplished some things in this league, does have some credibility to bring forward here. He's played a lot of games over his career. He's got 142 starts. He's had some really nice seasons. And I think you probably are looking at something in that area. If I had to chance a guess here, like PFF, grade, pretty good. 66.6. Year before that was a good amount higher, so he's been better. But my sense is that Derek Carr is going to command a decent amount of money. I would guess something around $30 million a year, maybe 25, but I'm going to say 30. Would I do that? No, not that interested in the Derek Carr thing. Not really. I would definitely rather have Heinicke for like $15 million a year than Carr for 30. And the last guy we're going to talk about here is a guy who would only be available through trade. It's Aaron Rodgers. And that's why I'm only going to spend a little bit of time here. Reports are that you would have to give up at least 2 first-round picks to get Aaron Rodgers in Seattle. So, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. Not for a guy who clearly displayed some drop-off in ability in 2022. Yes, I know about his receivers. I know about his teammates. Da-da-da-da-da. Still didn't look like the same guy to me at all. PFF agreed, by the way. They gave him a grade of about 77.5. Compare that to the 90 type grades he was putting up in previous years. And by the way, the contract you have to take on, admittedly not terrible, but I'm still not doing it. It's Too much money for a guy who is about to turn 40 years old and has already shown big signs of slippage. No thank you. So those are the guys that you could get to immediately take on a starting job that I see right now this offseason. We'll be coming out with another video later today talking about some options beyond the obvious starters. So stay tuned for that. See you guys later today. Go Hawks. And I hope you guys are ready to go over some of the less desirable quarterbacks out there, because there are quite a few this offseason.